I sat at my kitchen table on a Tuesday morning, the steam from my coffee curling up into the empty air of my apartment. The phone felt heavy in my hands as I typed out what should have been a simple message to my daughter, Emma. "Hey, sweetheart, what time should I come over for Tyler's birthday party on Saturday? Should I bring the cake, or do you want me to handle decorations like last year?" I hit send and leaned back in my chair, looking around the space that had become my world. One bedroom, basic furniture from the discount store, and walls covered with photos of my grandson Tyler. 7 years old this Saturday. Every photo on these walls was one I'd taken during our brief visits, or ones Emma had grudgingly sent when I asked how he was doing. The apartment was quiet, in a way that felt permanent. It had been 3 years since I'd moved here, downsizing from the family home where Emma grew up. The house where Sarah and I had planned to grow old together before cancer changed everything. I'd sold it to help with Emma's down payment, telling myself it was too big for one person anyway. My phone buzzed. Emma's reply came back faster than usual, accompanied by that laugh emoji she used when she thought something was obvious. "We already celebrated yesterday. Just the people who matter." I read it once, then twice, then a third time, each reading making the words cut deeper. 7 words that somehow contained years of casual cruelty I'd been too afraid to acknowledge. Tyler had turned 7, and his grandfather apparently didn't make the list of people who mattered. The coffee cup trembled in my hands as I scrolled up through our conversation history. Months of my messages asking about visits, offering to help with school events, suggesting family dinners. Her responses were always the same: short, dismissive, or laser-focused on money. When was the last time she'd called just to talk? When was the last time she'd said she missed me, or that Tyler asked about Grandpa? I couldn't remember. The automatic transfer notification popped up on my screen like clockwork. $2,847 transferred to Emma Richardson. Mortgage payment number 37. I'd been covering her monthly payments for 3 years now, religiously, without fail, on top of the car payments, the insurance, and those emergency loans that seemed to happen every other month. My finger hovered over the notification, and for the first time, I felt something twist in my chest that wasn't guilt or worry. It was anger. That anger felt strange and unfamiliar, like wearing clothes that didn't quite fit. I'd spent 16 years as a single father making sure Emma never felt the abandonment I'd feared after Sarah died. Maybe I'd succeeded too well. I pulled out my laptop and opened my banking app, something I usually avoided looking at too closely. The numbers told a story I'd been afraid to read. 3 years of mortgage payments, $102,492. The down payment assistance, $23,000. The wedding I'd paid for, entirely because Derek's family isn't financially stable, $31,000. The car loan I'd co-signed that somehow became mine to pay, $18,500. The credit card I'd given her for emergencies that always carried a $4,000 balance. I was 67 years old with $14,073 in retirement savings because every month, every spare dollar, every tax refund had gone to ensuring my daughter's comfort. And according to her, I didn't matter enough for a 7-year-old's birthday party. The photos on my walls suddenly felt different. Tyler blowing out candles on a cake I'd bought. Tyler opening Christmas presents I'd wrapped. Tyler in the baseball uniform I'd paid for, holding the bat I'd surprised him with. In how many of these moments had I been excluded from the planning, only invited to provide the funding? I remembered Emma's words when she'd asked for the mortgage help 3 years ago. "Dad, if something happened to you, I'd never recover. This way, you're investing in our future together. Tyler will always know his grandpa took care of us. The manipulation was so smooth I'd felt grateful to be needed. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Emma. Can you bump up this month's payment? Derek wants to refinance and we need to show higher equity. Maybe add an extra $1,000? The bank is looking at income ratios. I stared at the message, sent exactly 23 minutes after telling me I didn't matter. No mention of the birthday party. No explanation for excluding me. No acknowledgement of my hurt. Just another request for money, casual as asking for the weather. The pattern became crystal clear. I wasn't Emma's father. I was her ATM. I opened my banking app and found the automatic transfer settings. For 3 years, that $2,847 had moved from my account to hers on the 15th of every month, as reliable as sunrise. I'd never questioned it, never hesitated, never asked for gratitude. Just like I'd never questioned working double shifts as a single father, never hesitated to give up my own plans when Emma needed something. The memory hit me like cold water. Emma, at 15, crying because she couldn't afford the class trip to Washington, D.C. All my friends are going, Dad. I'll be the only one left behind. I'd picked up extra shifts for 6 weeks, sleeping 4 hours a night, eating cereal for dinner just to scrape together the $800. When she came back, she'd barely mentioned the trip. The photos showed her laughing with friends who'd never heard of the janitor father working nights so she could belong. That pattern had never stopped. College. Dad, everyone else's parents are helping with expenses. I can't work and maintain my grades. 4 years of $1,200 monthly payments while I drove a 15-year-old car and skipped meals. Wedding. Dad, Derek's family can't contribute much. Could you handle the venue and catering? It's Tyler's future stepfather we're talking about. $31,000 for a wedding where I sat alone at a table marked family, watching Derek's relatives fill the rest of the chairs. House hunting. Dad, we found the perfect place but need help with the down payment. This is your grandchild's future home. $23,000 transferred the same day, money I'd been saving for my own retirement. And now, 3 years of mortgage payments later, I was someone who didn't matter enough for a birthday party. I walked to my bathroom mirror and looked at the 67-year-old man staring back. Gray hair thinning on top, crow's feet from years of worry, shoulders permanently stooped from carrying financial stress that wasn't originally mine. When had I become this person? When had taking care of Emma become the same thing as being used by her? Sarah's voice echoed in my memory, something she'd said during those final weeks in the hospital. Robert, promise me you won't disappear into Emma's life. Promise me you'll still be you after I'm gone. I'd failed that promise completely. My phone buzzed with another notification. Emma again. Dad, I need an answer about the extra $1,000. Derek is meeting with the loan officer tomorrow morning, and we need to show consistent higher payments to qualify for the better rate. The casual assumption that I'd comply made my chest tighten. No, please. No explanation of why this was necessary. No acknowledgement that I'd already sacrificed years of my retirement for their comfort. Just the expectation that I'd produce another $1,000 because she needed it. I looked around my apartment again, seeing it differently now. The discount furniture I'd bought because Emma's house payments are more important than my comfort. The empty refrigerator because groceries felt like a luxury when someone else's mortgage was due. The stack of medical bills I'd been ignoring because my health insurance was the first thing I'd cut to afford her car payments. This wasn't love. This wasn't family obligation. This was financial abuse, dressed up in the language of care. I opened my laptop and pulled up the banking website. The automatic transfer screen showed 3 years of reliability, $2,847 on the 15th of every month, never late, never questioned. The total amount transferred made my stomach clench. $102,492. Plus the credit cards, the insurance, the endless emergency loans. Over $100,000 in 3 years. And I didn't matter enough for a birthday party invitation. I thought about Tyler, probably still wearing the Batman shirt I'd bought him last Christmas. Maybe playing with the toys I'd sent for his birthday in the house my money helped keep. Had he asked about Grandpa? Had Emma even mentioned that I wasn't invited? The banking app showed my current balance, $847 until my next Social Security check. Barely enough to cover my own rent, while I was being asked to produce another $1,000 for people who'd celebrated my grandson's birthday without me. For the first time in 3 years, I clicked on the automatic transfer settings. The screen loaded with options. Edit amount, change. Date, cancel transfer. My finger trembled over the mouse as I stared at that last option. Cancel transfer. I'd never even considered it before. The payment was automatic, inevitable, like gravity. Emma needed it, therefore I provided it. That's how it had always worked. But gravity could be defied. I saved the page without making changes and closed the laptop. The decision felt too big, too permanent to make in anger. But the seed had been planted. My phone lay silent on the table. No follow-up from Emma asking how I was doing. No questions about my health or happiness or plans. Just the assumption that the money would arrive as scheduled, and the confidence that I'd add extra when requested. I picked up the phone and stared at my banking app one more time. My finger hovered over the automatic transfer settings, and for the first time in years, I wondered what would happen if I didn't send the money. I pressed Cancel Transfer. The confirmation screen appeared. Are you sure you want to cancel this recurring payment? For a moment, I hesitated. 3 years of reliability. 3 years of being the safety net that kept Emma's world stable. But then I remembered those 7 words. Just the people who matter. I clicked Confirm. The banking app updated immediately. For the first time in 3 years, the $2,847 would stay in my account on the 15th. My hands were steady now, steadier than they'd been in months. I felt something I hadn't experienced since Sarah died. Control over my own money. I spent the next hour going through every automatic payment, every recurring transfer. Car payment, $447 monthly. Insurance payment, $312 monthly. Credit card minimum, $127 monthly. The emergency fund transfer, $200 monthly. Layer after layer of financial support I'd set up and forgotten about. Money flowing out of my life and into theirs like a slow leak I'd stopped noticing. The total was staggering. $3,933 every month. Over $47,000 a year. More than my entire Social Security income. I'd been subsidizing their entire lifestyle with money I couldn't afford to give. For 3 days, I waited. I didn't tell Emma about the canceled payment. I didn't send explanatory texts or apologetic messages. I just waited to see what would happen when the money didn't arrive automatically for the first time in 3 years. Would she notice? Would she care? Would she call to check on me before she called to check on the money? Friday morning at 6:07 a.m., my phone shattered the quiet with Emma's ringtone. The panic in her voice was immediate and raw. Dad, the mortgage payment failed. Did you forget to transfer the money? The bank is charging late fees and Derek is freaking out. What happened? I took a slow sip of coffee, letting the silence stretch between us. The panic on the other end was almost palpable. I didn't forget, I said calmly. What do you mean? The payment is due today. We're already 3 days late because of the weekend processing. Just send it now, okay? I'll text you the routing information again if you need it. The assumption that this was a technical error, not a choice, Told me everything. No. The word felt revolutionary. The silence on the other end stretched for 10 seconds, 15, 20. I could hear Derek's voice in the background, muffled but agitated. Dad, what's wrong with you? This isn't funny. We could lose the house. Tyler could lose his home. You can't just stop paying because your feelings are hurt. Hurt feelings, I repeated slowly. Is that what you think this is about? Look, I'm sorry about the birthday party thing. It was last minute, and Derek's mom was already stressing about numbers. You know how she gets about her kitchen space. The apology felt like tissue paper, thin and disposable. Emma, do you know how much money I've given you in the last 3 years? Dad, please don't make this about money right now. We're talking about our home here, our stability, Tyler's future. Our home. Our stability. I noticed how the possessive pronouns never included me unless they needed something. Everything seems to be about money with you. So let's talk about money. I read her the numbers from my laptop screen. Every transfer, every payment, every loan that had never been repaid. The mortgage payments, $102,492. The car loan, $18,500. The wedding, $31,000. The down payment, $23,000. The credit cards, the insurance, the emergency funds. Dad, you offered to help. We never asked for that much. The lie was so smooth, I almost believed it myself. Almost. I have your texts, Emma. 47 requests for money in the last 18 months. Should I read them to you? That's different. That's family helping family. You said you wanted to invest in Tyler's future. And excluding me from family events? What's that called? Her voice turned sharp, defensive. Dad, you're being manipulative. We're talking about our home here. Tyler's home. You can't just stop paying because your feelings are hurt over one birthday party. One party? The words came out harder than I intended. Emma, when was the last time you called me just to talk? When was the last time you asked how I was doing? When was the last time Tyler spent the night here? Dad, we've been busy. Derek's business is taking off, and I'm working full-time and Tyler has school and activities. But never too busy to ask for money. That's not fair. Fair. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to talk about fair? I heard Derek's voice getting louder in the background, then the sound of the phone being passed. Listen to me, old man. Derek's voice cut through the speaker like glass. Emma's too nice to say this, but you made a commitment. We bought this house based on your promise to help with payments. We have a verbal contract. A verbal contract, I repeated. That's right. You can't just change your mind and screw over your own family. Emma quit her better job because we knew we had your support. We made financial decisions based on your word. The manipulation was textbook perfect. Create dependency, then claim the dependency was my idea. Derek, what did you tell the mortgage company about your income when you bought the house? What kind of question is that? A simple one. What income did you report? Silence. Then Emma's voice, back on the phone. Dad, what does that matter? The point is we need that payment today. Can you just send it and we'll figure out the other stuff later? Actually, it matters a lot, because I've been wondering something. I opened a new browser tab and navigated to the county property records. I've been paying your mortgage for 3 years, but I've never actually seen the mortgage documents. Dad, you don't need to see paperwork. You know we're good for it. Good for what? You've never made a single payment yourself. I found their property record and clicked through to the current mortgage information. The names on the loan made my blood run cold. Emma, why is my name on your mortgage as a co-signer? The silence on the other end was deafening. What are you talking about? Her voice had lost all its confidence. I'm looking at the county records right now. Robert Mitchell and Emma Richardson, joint mortgage holders. When exactly did I sign that paperwork? Dad, I can explain that. Please do, because I'm looking at a signature that's supposed to be mine, and I don't remember writing it. More silence. Then Derek's voice in the background. Just hang up. Hang up right now. Emma, are you still there? Dad, we needed you as co-signer to get approved. You said you wanted to help Tyler have a stable home. I said I'd help with payments. I never said I'd be legally responsible for your entire mortgage. Look, the bank needed income verification, and Derek was between jobs when we applied. We knew you'd be okay with it because you were already planning to help with payments anyway. The casual admission of fraud was breathtaking. They'd forged my signature and justified it as a favor I should be grateful for. Emma, forging someone's signature is a crime. Dad, don't be dramatic. It's not like we were stealing from you. We were just making sure we could get the house for Tyler. Everything worked out fine. Fine for who? I've paid over $100,000 for a house I don't live in, can't visit whenever I want, and apparently don't matter enough to be invited to birthday parties in. You're making this bigger than it is. Am I? Because I just realized something else. I clicked through more property records, cross-referencing with social media posts I'd seen. Emma, have you been telling people your house is paid off? The silence was answer enough. I saw Derek's LinkedIn post last month about achieving the American dream of homeownership. He thanked everyone who helped you pay off the mortgage early. Was he talking about me? Dad, people say things on social media. It doesn't mean anything. It means you've been lying about where your financial stability comes from. While I've been living on cereal and skipping doctor appointments to afford your mortgage, you've been taking credit for financial success that isn't yours. I heard Derek grab the phone again, his voice dropping to a register I'd never heard before. Listen here, Robert. You're going to send that payment today, and you're going to keep sending it every month like you promised, because if you don't, you'll never see Tyler again. Emma and I have been talking about maybe moving closer to my family anyway. Maybe this is the push we need. The threat was crystal clear. Pay for the privilege of limited access to my grandson, or lose him entirely. Derek, let me ask you something. Does your family know that my Social Security checks pay for your house? What we tell my family is none of your business. But what I do with my money is yours? You made a commitment, old man. And around here we keep our word. The line went dead. I sat, in the sudden silence, my laptop screen still showing the mortgage documents with my forged signature. Derek's voice echoed in my memory. Around here, we keep our word. The irony was thick enough to choke on. Derek's words kept echoing. Around here, we keep our word. But their word apparently didn't include honesty about forged signatures or stolen identities. I stared at my laptop screen, the mortgage documents still open, my fake signature glowing like evidence in a crime scene. If they could lie about something this big, what else had they been hiding? I spent the weekend becoming a detective in my own life. 3 days of methodical digging through every document, every email, every financial record I'd casually filed away. The picture that emerged was worse than I'd imagined. The first shock came from my credit report. I'd been listed as co-signer on not just the original mortgage, but both refinancing deals. 2 refinances in 3 years, each one pulling equity out of the house. Equity I'd been building with my monthly payments. The math was brutal. They'd refinanced in June 2022 and pulled out $34,000 cash. Then again in March 2024 for another $44,000. Nearly $80,000 in cash extracted from a house I'd been paying for. Money I'd never seen or known about. Where had that money gone? I opened Emma's Facebook page, and started scrolling backward through 3 years of posts. The story that unfolded made my chest tight with rage. June 2022, right after the first refinancing, photos of their vacation to Hawaii. Finally treating ourselves to the trip we've always dreamed of. The resort looked expensive. The restaurants looked expensive. Everything looked expensive for a family supposedly struggling to make mortgage payments. September 2022, Derek's new truck gleaming in their driveway. Upgrading the work vehicle for the business. The truck had cost at least $60,000 new. March 2024, right after the second refinancing. Kitchen renovation photos. Granite countertops, new appliances, custom cabinets. So blessed to finally have our dream kitchen. The renovation had to have cost $30,000 minimum. I screenshot every post, every image, every caption. A timeline of luxury funded by equity I'd been building, while they told me they were barely scraping by. My phone rang. Marcus. Robert, I've been thinking about what you told me yesterday. Have you looked at the actual mortgage documents yet? I'm looking at them right now. Marcus. They forged my signature on 2 refinancing agreements. They've pulled out nearly $80,000 in cash. Jesus Christ. Robert, that's not just fraud. That's identity theft on a massive scale. The words felt surreal. My own daughter, stealing my identity to fund a lifestyle she couldn't afford. Marcus, there's more. I'm looking at their social media right now. They've been living like millionaires while telling me they can barely afford groceries. I kept scrolling, screenshotting everything. October 2023. Derek's post about finally achieving financial independence. November 2023. Emma's post thanking amazing family support for helping them pay off our mortgage early. December 2023. Photos of Tyler's elaborate birthday party at an expensive venue with the caption, "Nothing's too good for our boy." The same birthday party I hadn't been invited to, apparently. Robert, you need to document everything. Every forged signature, every fraudulent claim, every piece of evidence. This is going to court. Court? They've committed multiple felonies, identity theft, mortgage fraud, and if they've been claiming you as a dependent on their taxes while you're also filing your own returns, that's tax fraud too. Tax fraud. I hadn't even thought of that. I pulled up my tax software and logged into Emma's account using the shared password she'd given me years ago for emergency access. What I found made my hands shake. For 3 years, Emma had been claiming me as a dependent on her tax returns. She'd been getting tax breaks for supporting an elderly parent while that same elderly parent was supporting her. The amount of fraudulent refunds, $11,400 over 3 years. She'd been double dipping, getting paid by the government for taking care of me while I was taking care of her. My phone buzzed with notifications. Text messages from Emma, increasingly frantic. Dad, please call me back. We can work this out. Derek is willing to discuss a payment plan for you to transition out of helping us. Dad, Tyler keeps asking why Grandpa is upset. This is affecting our whole family. I noticed how quickly Tyler became the weapon when money was involved. I opened Derek's LinkedIn profile, curious about his claims of business success. The timeline was revealing. His consulting company had been formed 6 months after their house purchase. His client list was sparse. His income claims didn't match the lifestyle their social media showed. But the real shock was in the company registration documents, publicly available through the state business database. Derek's consulting company was registered with my address. My apartment address that I'd moved to specifically because it was cheaper. He'd been using my residence for business tax purposes, while claiming his house address for personal tax benefits. The scope of their fraud was staggering. Every angle I investigated revealed another layer of deception, Another way they'd been using my name, my credit, my address, my money while cutting me out of the family they claimed to be protecting. I started building a file. Screenshots, bank records, property documents, tax returns, social media posts, everything organized chronologically so the pattern became impossible to deny. They hadn't stumbled into fraud accidentally. This was systematic, calculated, and had been running for years. The phone call started around noon. Emma, Derek, then Emma again. I let them all go to voicemail. The voicemails painted a picture of panic barely contained by arrogance. Derek's voice, tight with controlled anger. "Robert, you're making a mistake. We've invested in this house based on your commitment. You can't just change the rules in the middle of the game. Call me back." Emma, trying to sound reasonable. "Dad, I know you're upset about the birthday thing, but Derek and I need to know where we stand financially. Can you please just call us back so we can work this out like adults?" Derek, again, 20 minutes later. "Listen, old man. Emma's trying to be nice, but I'm not. You signed papers. You made commitments. We have evidence of your promises, and if you try to screw us over, we'll make sure everyone knows what kind of grandfather abandons his family over money." Evidence of my promises. I almost laughed. What evidence could they possibly have that wasn't fabricated like everything else? I called Marcus back. "Marcus, I need you to walk me through something. If someone forges your signature on mortgage documents, what exactly happens to them legally? Identity theft in the first degree, mortgage fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud. We're talking federal charges, Robert. Years in prison if convicted. And if they've been claiming me as a tax dependent while I'm filing my own returns? Tax fraud. Also federal, also years in prison. The magnitude of what Emma and Derek had done was hitting me in waves. These weren't small financial tricks or white lies. These were serious crimes that could destroy their lives permanently. Had they thought about Tyler when they decided to commit federal fraud? Had they considered what would happen to my grandson if his parents went to prison? I opened Instagram and started going through Emma's friend list, people I'd known since she was in high school. Their comments on her posts told another story entirely. "You guys are so lucky to have everything paid off already." Goals. Maybe Derek can teach my husband about financial planning. Living the dream. No mortgage payments must be so freeing. Emma had been letting her friends believe they were financially independent while I paid for everything. The deception went beyond money. It was about image, status, the appearance of success. I was the invisible foundation holding up their public reputation, and they'd been taking credit for stability they hadn't earned. I printed everything. Bank statements, property records, tax documents, social media posts, the mortgage papers with my forged signature. 3 years of evidence that told a clear story. Calculated fraud disguised as family assistance. The stack of papers on my kitchen table grew thicker as the afternoon wore on. Each document was another piece of proof that this wasn't thoughtlessness or desperation. This was systematic financial abuse that had been planned and executed with precision. I found Derek's business tax returns, filed using my address for the business mailing location. His claimed income was $120,000 annually, yet somehow he couldn't afford a $2,847 mortgage payment. The math didn't add up until I realized the truth. Derek was hiding his real income to avoid paying his fair share while making me cover the difference. Emma's employment records showed something similar. She'd been claiming financial hardship at work to get assistance with health insurance premiums, while simultaneously posting photos of expensive dinners and weekend trips. The hardship claims were dated the same months as their luxury purchases. Every document I uncovered revealed the same pattern: public success, funded by private fraud. My phone had been buzzing all afternoon with increasingly desperate messages from Emma. The tone had shifted from demanding to pleading to threatening, and back to pleading. Derek's messages were consistently threatening, each one mentioning Tyler as leverage. Your grandson is going to suffer because of your selfishness. Emma is crying every night because her father is abandoning the family. We've been nothing but good to you, and this is how you repay us. The manipulation was textbook perfect. Create crisis, assign blame, demand immediate resolution, threaten consequences. It probably worked with other people. It had certainly worked with me for 3 years. But now I had papers, evidence, proof. The sun was setting when my phone buzzed with a notification I wasn't expecting. A text from a number I recognized but rarely heard from. Linda, Derek's mother. Robert, we need to talk. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., your place. There are things you don't understand about this situation. I stared at the message, my finger hovering over the reply button. Derek's mother wanted to meet at my apartment. The same woman who'd been bragging on social media about her son's financial success wanted to have a conversation about things I didn't understand. The stack of evidence on my table suggested I understood more than she thought. At exactly 2 p.m. on Monday, 3 sharp knocks echoed through my apartment. I looked through the peephole and saw them. Linda, Derek's mother, standing with Emma and Derek like a small army arranged for battle. Linda's face was stern, Emma's eyes were red from crying, and Derek looked like he was barely containing his anger. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. Robert? Linda's voice carried the authority of someone used to getting her way. We need to discuss this situation before it gets out of hand. What situation is that? Don't play dumb. Derek told me you're threatening to stop helping with the mortgage. That's not acceptable. I stepped aside and let them in, but kept my expression neutral. The evidence was still spread across my kitchen table, covered by a towel I'd placed over it before they arrived. Emma immediately went to my refrigerator, opening it like she lived here. Dad, do you have anything to drink? This has been so stressful. The casual entitlement was breathtaking. She was treating my home like her personal space, while simultaneously cutting me out of hers. Emma, sit down. We're here to solve a problem, not raid your father's kitchen, Linda said, taking control of the room. They arranged themselves on my small couch like a tribunal. Linda in the center, Emma on her right looking wounded, Derek on her left looking dangerous. Robert, I want you to understand something, Linda began. When young families make major financial decisions, they do so based on commitments from people they trust. Derek and Emma bought that house because you promised to help with payments. They've built their entire life around that promise. I promised to help, I said carefully. I didn't promise to pay for everything permanently. Help means help, Derek interjected. Not help until you get your feelings hurt over some birthday party scheduling. Emma's tears started on cue. Dad, Tyler has been asking about you all week. He doesn't understand why Grandpa isn't coming around anymore. This is breaking his heart. The Tyler weapon. They pulled it out whenever logic failed. Tyler doesn't understand because you didn't invite me to his birthday party. Dad, it was complicated. Derek's family was hosting and there were space limitations. Space limitations for 7-year-olds but not for Derek's unemployed brother and his 3 kids? Linda's voice cut through sharply. Robert, you're being petty. Family dynamics are complex, and sometimes adults have to make difficult decisions about events. Complex, I repeated. Like forging my signature on mortgage documents? The room went silent. Emma's tears stopped mid-sob. Derek's jaw tightened. Linda's eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? Linda asked, but her voice had lost some of its authority. I pulled the towel off my kitchen table, revealing the mountain of evidence I'd been gathering. Bank statements, property records, mortgage documents with signatures that weren't mine. I'm talking about identity theft, mortgage fraud, tax fraud, using my address for business purposes without my knowledge or consent, Derek stood up abruptly. You don't know what you're talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I have copies of every document with my forged signature. I have your tax returns claiming me as a dependent while I'm filing my own returns. I have your business registration using my address while you claim financial hardship. Emma's face had gone white. Dad, let me explain. Explain what? Explain how you've been committing federal crimes using my identity? Explain how you've been stealing from me for 3 years? We haven't stolen anything. Derek's voice was rising. We've invested in this house based on your commitment to help us. You can't just change your mind and destroy our family? Linda reached into her purse and pulled out a folder. Robert, this is why we're here. We've prepared something that will protect everyone's interests. She slid a document across my coffee table. The heading read, Family Financial Support Agreement. This formalizes your commitment to help Emma and Derek with their housing costs. It protects your investment by ensuring the payments continue as planned, and it protects their family stability by making the arrangement official. I picked up the document and read through it. Legal language wrapped around a simple concept. I would agree to pay their mortgage for the next 7 years, with automatic increases tied to inflation. In exchange, they would allow me reasonable visitation with Tyler. Reasonable visitation. Like a divorced parent. You want me to sign a contract to pay your bills in exchange for permission to see my own grandson? We want to formalize an arrangement that's been working for everyone, Linda said smoothly. This protects all parties. Working for everyone? I looked at Emma. Has this been working for me? Emma's voice was small. Dad, we thought you were happy to help. You never complained. I never complained because I thought I was helping my family. Not funding your fraud? Derek shot to his feet. Fraud? You think we're criminals? I think you forged my signature on mortgage documents. What would you call that? I call it making sure Tyler had a stable home when bureaucracy was getting in the way. The justification was smooth as silk. Crime became love. Theft became family support. Derek, sit down, Linda commanded. Her son obeyed, but his fists stayed clenched. Robert, let's be realistic here. You're 67 years old. You live alone in a 1-bedroom apartment. Emma and Derek are young parents building a future. Where exactly do you think your money is better invested? The insult was wrapped in practical language, but it landed like a slap. Too old to matter, too isolated to deserve consideration. My money is better invested in my own retirement. What retirement? Derek laughed coldly. You're already retired. Social Security and Medicare take care of everything you need. We're talking about Tyler's childhood here. His stability. His future. And what about my future? Your future is watching your grandson grow up in a stable home that you helped provide, Emma said, her voice taking on that manipulative sweetness I'd heard for years. Dad, we're not asking for charity. We're asking for investment in family. Linda leaned forward. Robert, sign this agreement and everything goes back to normal. You continue helping your family, Emma and Derek have the security they need to plan ahead, and Tyler benefits from a grandfather who puts family first. I looked at the contract again. 7 years of mandatory payments, automatic increases, limited visitation rights subject to family schedule considerations. And if I don't sign... The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Derek's voice lost all pretense of civility. Then you'll never see Tyler again. Simple as that. Derek, Emma warned, but he was past caring about subtlety. No, Emma. He needs to understand the consequences. We've been nothing but good to him. We've included him in our lives, let him be part of Tyler's world, treated him like family. And this is how he repays us? By abandoning us when we need him most? The words were perfectly backwards. They'd been using my money while limiting my access, then claiming I was abandoning them when I stopped paying. I quietly reached into my pocket and started the voice recording app on my phone. If they wanted to make threats, I wanted evidence. Derek, let me understand this correctly. You're saying that if I don't continue paying your mortgage, you'll prevent me from seeing my grandson? I'm saying that family members who abandon their responsibilities don't get to enjoy family privileges. Linda nodded approvingly. Robert, Derek has every right to protect his family from people who can't be trusted to keep their word. Keep my word about what? About continuing to pay for a house I was never supposed to own? About funding a lifestyle I can't afford while you claim financial independence? You committed to helping us get established, Emma said, her tears flowing again. We're not established yet. Derek's business is still growing. Growing into what? I've seen his tax returns. His claimed income is higher than mine, but somehow he can't afford his own mortgage. Derek's face flushed red. You have no right to look at my tax information. I have every right to look at documents that use my forged signature. That signature wasn't forged. You agreed to co-sign. When? Show me one email, one text, one piece of evidence that I agreed to co-sign your mortgage. Derek stood up again, his bulk filling my small living room. You're going to sign this agreement today, old man. You're going to continue the payments like you promised, because if you don't, Emma and I will make sure everyone knows what kind of grandfather chooses money over his own family. The threat was clear and recorded. And if you keep causing problems, Derek continued, stepping closer, we might just decide to move to Florida where my family can help us raise Tyler properly. Away from toxic influences. Linda pulled out another document. This is a restraining order application, Robert. If you continue to harass Derek and Emma about their financial arrangements, we'll file it. You'll be legally prohibited from contacting them or Tyler. The manipulation was masterful. Create crisis, offer solution, threaten nuclear option. Let me get this straight. You want me to sign a contract to pay your bills for 7 years, and if I refuse, you'll file a restraining order to keep me from my grandson? We want you to honor your commitments like a man, Derek said. I looked at the three faces staring at me with expectant entitlement. Emma's tears, Linda's stern authority, Derek's barely contained aggression. They were absolutely certain I would fold, sign the papers, return to my role as their personal ATM. I need time to think about this. How much time? Linda asked. I'll let you know. Derek's voice dropped to a whisper. You're going to pay either way, old man. We can do this easy or hard. After they left, I sat in the silence of my apartment, the contract and restraining order application on my coffee table like twin threats. The recording on my phone had captured everything. The threats, the manipulation, the casual admission that they saw me as nothing more than a funding source. I picked up my phone and scrolled to Marcus's number. Marcus arrived at my apartment 30 minutes later with a leather briefcase and the serious expression he wore in court. I'd known him for 40 years, since we were both young men trying to figure out our careers. He'd become a successful property attorney. I'd become a high school teacher. But friendship had always trumped professional differences. Robert, show me everything. I spread the evidence across my kitchen table like a prosecutor preparing for trial. Bank statements, mortgage documents, property records, tax returns, screenshots of social media posts, the recording from yesterday's confrontation. Marcus put on his reading glasses and examined each document carefully. The silence stretched for 20 minutes as he made notes in a legal pad, occasionally asking for clarification or additional documents. Robert, this is worse than I thought. How much worse? They've committed identity theft, mortgage fraud, tax fraud, And based on this business registration, probably mail fraud, too. We're talking about multiple federal crimes here. Marcus pulled out his phone and started making calls. First to the local police department's fraud division, then to the district attorney's office, then to a private investigator he'd worked with on other cases. "We need to move fast," he explained between calls. "The longer this goes on, the more evidence they might try to destroy." I felt something shifting inside me. For 3 years, I'd been reacting to Emma and Derek's demands. Now, for the first time, I was taking proactive action. The feeling was both terrifying and exhilarating. "What's our first step?" "We file criminal complaints for the identity theft and mortgage fraud. Then we freeze any accounts they might have access to in your name. Then we prepare for them to escalate their threats when they realize you're serious." Marcus was right about the escalation. My phone had been buzzing with messages all morning. "Emma. Dad, please call me back. We need to resolve this today." Derek. "Robert, you're making a huge mistake. This is going to hurt everyone, especially Tyler." Linda. "I'm disappointed in you, Robert. I thought you were a man of your word." The messages kept coming, each one more desperate or threatening than the last. "They're panicking," Marcus observed, reading over my shoulder. "Good. Panic makes people make mistakes." The first step was securing my financial accounts. Marcus walked me through freezing any joint accounts I'd forgotten, about changing passwords on everything, and reviewing every automatic payment or transfer that might still be active. We found 3 accounts I'd completely forgotten existed. A savings account Emma had access to for emergencies that she'd been draining slowly for 2 years. A credit card account where she was an authorized user that carried an $8,400 balance I'd been unaware of. A home equity line of credit on my old house that somehow hadn't been closed when I sold it. "Robert, they've been systematically accessing every financial resource you have. This isn't just mortgage fraud. This is comprehensive financial abuse. I spent the afternoon on hold with banks, freezing accounts, removing authorized users, canceling automatic payments. Each call revealed more unauthorized activity. The emergency savings account had been emptied last month to pay for Derek's truck insurance. The credit card had been maxed out with cash advances I'd never authorized. By evening, I'd cut off their access to over $47,000 in available credit and recurring payments. "Now we wait," Marcus said, organizing the documents we'd copied. "They'll realize the other accounts are frozen within 24 hours. That's when their real panic will start." He was right. Tuesday morning brought a flood of messages. Emma. "Dad, my card got declined at the grocery store." Did something happen to the emergency account? Derek. "Robert, whatever you did to our financial accounts needs to be undone immediately. You're affecting our daily life." Linda. "Robert, I'm calling my son-in-law who's a police officer." This financial harassment has to stop. The messages revealed how deeply they'd integrated my money into their lifestyle. The emergency account wasn't for emergencies. It was for their regular expenses that they couldn't actually afford. Marcus reviewed the new messages with professional satisfaction. "They're admitting to unauthorized use of your accounts in writing. These texts are evidence of their financial dependence and sense of entitlement to your money." While Emma's family spiraled into panic, Marcus connected me with investigator Sarah Chen, a former FBI agent who specialized in financial fraud cases. "Mr. Mitchell, based on what Marcus has shown me, you've been the victim of a sophisticated financial fraud scheme. But before we proceed, I need to understand the full scope. How many accounts do they have access to? How many documents carry your forged signature?" Sarah's questions were methodical, professional, and revealing. She guided me through a complete financial audit that took 3 hours and uncovered fraud I'd never suspected. "Mr. Mitchell, they've been using your identity for more than just the mortgage. I found credit inquiries in your name for loans you never applied for, business licenses using your social security number, and insurance claims filed under your name for property you don't own. The breadth of their fraud was staggering. They hadn't just forged a signature. They'd been systematically stealing my identity for years. Sarah's investigation revealed Derek's consulting business was largely fictional. The client list was padded with shell companies he'd created himself. The income he claimed on taxes came from moving money between accounts he controlled, creating the appearance of business revenue that didn't exist. He's running a classic shell game. Money goes from account A to account B, gets labeled as consulting income, then moves to account C for business expenses that are actually personal purchases. While Sarah dug into Derek's financial crimes, I worked on building my own evidence file. Every threatening text message, every voicemail, every piece of forged documentation went into a growing folder that Marcus would present to prosecutors. But Emma and Derek weren't sitting idle. By Wednesday afternoon, Emma had launched a social media campaign that painted me as a cruel grandfather who'd abandoned his family over money. Her Facebook post had over 200 likes and dozens of sympathetic comments. Please keep our family in your thoughts. My father has decided to stop helping us with our mortgage payments over a misunderstanding about Tyler's birthday party. We're devastated that money has become more important to him than his grandson's stability. Derek and I are trying to stay strong, but it's heartbreaking to watch Tyler ask why Grandpa doesn't love us anymore. The post was a masterpiece of manipulation. Every sentence was technically true, but completely misleading. She had indeed been excluded from financial support over the birthday party. They were indeed devastated about the mortgage payments stopping. Tyler probably was asking about me. But the context, the fraud, the threats, the years of exploitation were completely erased. The comments were predictably supportive. Some grandparents are just selfish. You're better off without that toxicity. Tyler will understand when he's older that his parents protected him from a man who uses money to control people. Stay strong! Family should never come with financial strings attached. The irony was suffocating. They were accusing me of using money to control people while they'd been literally stealing my money to control me. Marcus read the post over my shoulder. Robert, this is actually good for us. Good. She's destroying my reputation. She's creating evidence of a coordinated campaign to pressure you into continuing illegal payments. Every post, every comment, every public statement they make can be used to show their intent to continue the fraud. By Thursday morning, my dining table had transformed into a command center. 3 bankers' boxes filled with documents, a laptop displaying spreadsheets tracking every fraudulent transaction, and my phone recording every threatening voicemail Derek left. Sarah called with updates from her investigation into Derek's business dealings. Mr. Mitchell, Derek's Consulting. Company is a front. I found 11 different bank accounts under various business names, all controlled by Derek. Money flows between them to create the appearance of legitimate business income. What does that mean for the case? It means he's been committing tax fraud on a massive scale. The IRS will be very interested in this information. Sarah had also discovered something else. Derek had been claiming business deductions for the house expenses, including the mortgage payments I'd been making. He was getting tax breaks for business use of a home that my money was funding. He's double-dipping just like Emma, taking tax benefits for expenses he's not actually paying. The web of fraud kept expanding. Every thread we pulled revealed more deception, more manipulation, more systematic theft of my identity and finances. Marcus arrived that afternoon with papers to sign. Cease and desist letters, criminal complaints, and a motion to remove my name from any financial obligations I hadn't legitimately agreed to. Robert, once we file these, there's no going back. They'll know you're serious about prosecuting them for fraud. Good. I want them to know. This will probably destroy your relationship with Emma permanently. I looked at the photos of Tyler on my walls, wondering if I was sacrificing my relationship with my grandson to stop my daughter's crimes. Marcus, what relationship? I'm an ATM with limited visiting privileges. That's not a relationship. And Tyler? Tyler deserves better than parents who commit federal crimes to maintain a lifestyle they can't afford. I signed every document Marcus had prepared. Criminal complaints, civil suits, requests for restraining orders against Derek for his threats. As Marcus packed up the papers to file them, my phone rang. Sarah Chen's number. Mr. Mitchell, I have news about Derek's business dealings. We need to talk immediately. What kind of news? The kind that changes everything. Can you meet me tomorrow morning? I looked at Marcus, who was listening to my side of the conversation with growing concern. Sarah, what did you find? Not over the phone. But Mr. Mitchell, what I discovered about Derek's financial situation means Emma and Derek are in much deeper trouble than we thought, and it explains why they're so desperate to keep your money coming. The line went quiet, except for Sarah's breathing. They're not just committing fraud for luxury, Mr. Mitchell. They're committing fraud to avoid bankruptcy. Without your payments, they lose everything in 30 days. Sarah's revelation hit me like cold water. All this time, I'd thought Emma and Derek were greedy. Turns out they were desperate. Friday morning brought the full scope of their financial disaster. Sarah's investigation had uncovered the truth. Derek's business was failing catastrophically. The shell companies were collapsing, the fake income streams were drying up, and the debt they'd hidden from me was massive. Mr. Mitchell, they owe $73,000 in business loans, $31,000 in credit card debt, and $18,000 in back taxes. The mortgage you've been paying was the only thing keeping them afloat. How long have they been insolvent? Based on these records, about 18 months. Every luxury purchase, every vacation, every upgrade was funded by either your money or borrowed money they couldn't repay. The kitchen renovation I'd seen on Facebook, the Hawaiian vacation, Derek's truck, all of it purchased with credit they couldn't service while I covered their basic housing costs. They've been living like millionaires on your Social Security checks. Emma's social media campaign was gaining momentum, but it was also attracting attention she hadn't expected. By Friday afternoon, people were asking questions in the comments. Wait, how much was your dad paying each month? If he was covering your mortgage, where was your income going? I thought you said the house was paid off? Emma tried to control the narrative by deleting comments and blocking questioners, but screenshots live forever. People started sharing her post in local community groups, and the tone of the comments began shifting. Something doesn't add up here. If her father was paying $2,800 a month, why does she need that money to survive? Anyone else notice she posted about expensive vacations while claiming financial hardship? I saw Derek's truck at the country club last month. This family isn't struggling. Mrs. Patterson, my neighbor from the apartment complex, knocked on my door Friday evening. Robert, I hope you don't mind me asking, but I saw some posts online about family trouble. Are you all right? Mrs. Patterson had lived next door for 2 years. She'd seen Emma visit occasionally, always in expensive clothes, always driving Derek's new truck, always staying less than an hour. I'm managing Mrs. Patterson. Thank you for asking. Robert, in 2 years, I've never seen your daughter bring that grandson to visit, but I've seen you leave every month to visit them. That never seemed balanced to me. Her observation was simple and devastating. Saturday morning brought more unexpected visitors. 3 women from Emma's old neighborhood, people who'd known her since high school. Janet, Maria, and Beth had driven 20 minutes to my apartment because they'd seen the Facebook post and had questions. Mr. Mitchell, I hope you don't mind us stopping by, Janet said. We've been talking about Emma's post, and some things aren't adding up. They crowded into my small living room, and the stories they shared painted a picture I'd never seen. "Emma asked me for $500 last month," Maria said. "She said Derek's business had a cash flow problem, and they needed help with Tyler's school fees. But I saw her at the mall that same day buying expensive clothes." "She asked me for money too," Beth added. "Said their insurance didn't cover Tyler's dental work. But when I offered to pay the dentist directly, she said they'd handle it, and just needed cash." "Robert, how much were you giving them monthly?" Janet asked. I told them. The mortgage payments, the car payments, the insurance, the emergency fund transfers. The total of nearly $4,000 monthly. The three women exchanged looks of shock and disgust. "That's more than most people make," Maria said. "Where was all their income going if you were covering their major expenses?" "We've been wondering about that," Beth said. "Emma's been posting about financial struggles while living better than the rest of us. It never made sense." Their questions were the same ones Emma's Facebook commenters had started asking. And Emma's responses to the scrutiny were making everything worse. She'd posted again that morning. Some people would rather tear down a struggling family than admit they're wrong. "My father is choosing his pride over his grandson's well-being. Tyler doesn't understand why Grandpa stopped loving us." But this time the comments were different. "Emma, your dad was paying almost $4,000 a month. That's not helping. That's full support. If you needed that much money just to survive, where was Derek's business income going? I saw the photos of your Hawaii trip. That doesn't look like a family struggling to pay bills." Emma started responding defensively in the comments, and each response made her look worse. "We work hard for our lifestyle. My father offered to help and we accepted gratefully. Our family finances are private. Judge not lest you be judged. Tyler is innocent in all this. He doesn't deserve to suffer because adults can't get along." But the community wasn't buying it anymore. By Saturday evening, Emma's social media posts had been shared in 4 different local Facebook groups. What started as sympathy-seeking had become a public examination of their financial claims versus their visible lifestyle. Someone had created a screenshot comparison. Emma's posts about financial struggles next to Derek's LinkedIn, bragging about business success. The dates were telling. Every claim of hardship coincided with evidence of expensive purchases. The comment threads grew longer and more skeptical. This doesn't add up. If her father was paying their mortgage and they have business income, where was the money going? I worked with Derek 2 years ago. He was driving a $60,000 truck while claiming his business couldn't afford to pay invoices. My husband did consulting work for their company. Derek paid him with checks that bounced twice. Former friends started sharing their own stories of being asked for money by Emma and Derek. The pattern was consistent. Claims of temporary hardship. Promises to pay back quickly. Money that never got repaid. Sarah called Sunday morning with more devastating news. "Mr. Mitchell, Derek's business bank accounts have been frozen by the IRS. They found the shell company scheme I reported. Emma and Derek are about to face a federal tax audit." What does that mean for the bankruptcy situation? It means they're not just losing your payments. They're losing everything. The house, the cars, Derek's business, all of it. The federal investigation will freeze all their assets. Emma must have learned about the frozen accounts because her social media posts became increasingly desperate. "Please pray for our family during this difficult time. We're facing attacks from multiple directions and just trying to protect Tyler from the chaos." It's heartbreaking when family members weaponize finances to hurt innocent children. Some people will destroy their own grandchild's stability just to prove a point. Each post made her sound more unhinged, more desperate. The community was watching her credibility crumble in real time. Mrs. Patterson knocked on my door Sunday evening with a plate of cookies and a knowing smile. "Robert, I've been reading those posts online. Half the neighborhood is talking about it. What are they saying? They're saying it's about time someone stood up to that. Family people have suspected for years that their lifestyle didn't match their claims of poverty. She sat down at my kitchen table, looking at the boxes of evidence I'd been organizing. Robert, you've been subsidizing their entire existence, haven't you? For 3 years. Nearly everything. And they cut you out of birthday parties? Among other things. Mrs. Patterson shook her head. Everyone saw the truth once they looked past the tears. The community support was something I hadn't expected. For 3 years, I'd felt isolated, like I was the only person who couldn't make Emma happy, the only grandfather who somehow wasn't good enough. Now I realized other people had been watching and wondering. Monday morning brought Marcus with final paperwork for the court hearing. Robert, they've responded to our criminal complaints. Derek hired a lawyer who's claiming everything was a misunderstanding. They want to settle out of court. What kind of settlement? They'll admit to forging your signature but claim it was for family financial planning purposes. They'll agree to remove your name from future obligations in exchange for you dropping all criminal charges. And the money they stole? That's the interesting part. They're claiming they can't repay it because they used it for joint family investments that you benefited from. The audacity was breathtaking. They'd stolen my money, spent it on themselves, and now claimed I owed them because their lifestyle had somehow benefited me. What do you think? I think they're terrified. Derek's facing federal charges. Emma could lose Tyler if she's convicted of felony fraud. They want this to go away quietly. And if we don't settle? Then we go to court Thursday morning. The judge reviews all our evidence and they face the full consequences of their crimes. That afternoon, Emma made one final public appeal. Her Facebook post was longer and more emotional than anything she'd written before. I'm begging the community for prayers and support. My father has chosen to destroy our family over a misunderstanding about finances. We're facing bankruptcy, losing our home, and possibly losing custody of Tyler because my father would rather punish us than forgive us. I know we're not perfect, but Tyler doesn't deserve to suffer for adult conflicts. If anyone has resources to help a family in crisis, please reach out. We're desperate. The post backfired spectacularly. The comments were brutal. Maybe if you hadn't been committing fraud against your father, you wouldn't be in this situation. Taking care of your own mortgage isn't your father's responsibility. You're adults. I feel bad for Tyler, but his parents created this mess. Your father didn't destroy your family. Your greed did. Emma deleted the post within 3 hours, but screenshots were already circulating in the community groups. Tuesday morning, Marcus called with the final court schedule. Robert, Thursday at 9 a.m., Judge Davidson's courtroom. Bring copies of everything. I spent Tuesday and Wednesday organizing the evidence into 3 bankers' boxes. Every forged document, every fraudulent claim, every threatening message, every piece of proof that Emma and Derek had been systematically stealing from me while publicly humiliating me. Thursday morning arrived gray and cold. I loaded the boxes into my car and drove to the courthouse, my hand steady on the steering wheel for the first time in months. Inside, the echo of footsteps mixed with nervous whispers and the rustle of legal papers. Judge Davidson's courtroom was larger than I'd expected, with wooden benches that reminded me of church pews. The gallery was surprisingly full for a Thursday morning hearing. Mrs. Patterson was there, along with Janet, Maria, and Beth from Emma's old neighborhood. Even some people I didn't recognize had come, apparently drawn by the social media drama that had consumed the local community for the past week. Marcus arrived carrying his own box of documents, wearing the dark blue suit he reserved for serious court appearances. Robert, are you ready for this? As ready as I'll ever be. Remember, let me do most of the talking. The judge will want to hear your voice, but wait for my cue. Emma arrived at 8:55 a.m. with Derek, Linda, and a lawyer I didn't recognize. She was wearing her best dress, the black one she'd worn to Sarah's funeral, and her makeup was perfect, except for the red around her eyes that suggested she'd been crying. Derek looked uncomfortable in an ill-fitting suit, his usual confidence replaced by the nervous energy of someone facing serious consequences. Linda walked beside them like a general preparing for battle, her jaw set and her handbag clutched tightly. They took seats at the defendant's table, whispering urgently among themselves. Emma kept glancing at the gallery, seeming surprised by how many people had come to watch. All rise for Judge Davidson. Judge Davidson was a woman in her 60s, with gray hair pulled back severely, and the no-nonsense expression of someone who'd heard every excuse and sob story in the book. She reviewed the case file briefly before looking up at the packed courtroom. "This is quite an audience for a civil fraud case. I hope everyone understands this is not entertainment." The gallery fell silent. "Mr. Watson, you're representing Mr. Mitchell in this matter?" Marcus stood. "Yes, Your Honor. We're here today because my client has been the victim of systematic financial fraud perpetrated by his own daughter and her husband." Emma's lawyer, a young man who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else, stood up. "Your Honor, my clients dispute these characterizations. This is a family financial dispute that has been blown out of proportion due to miscommunication and hurt feelings." Judge Davidson's eyebrows raised slightly. "Miscommunication. Let's see what kind of miscommunication we're dealing with." Marcus opened the first box of evidence and pulled out a folder thick with mortgage documents. "Your Honor, these are mortgage papers for 247 Maple Street, the home occupied by Emma and Derek Richardson. You'll notice that Mr. Robert Mitchell's name appears as co-signer on the original mortgage and both subsequent refinancing agreements." He handed copies to the judge and opposing counsel. "Mr. Mitchell never signed these documents, Your Honor. The signatures are forgeries." Emma's lawyer glanced at the papers and whispered urgently to his clients. Emma's face had gone pale. "Your Honor," the lawyer said, "my clients maintain that Mr. Mitchell gave verbal consent for co-signing these documents. The signatures were executed by Derek Richardson with Mr. Mitchell's full knowledge and approval." Judge Davidson examined the signature samples Marcus provided. Original documents signed by me from my bank, my insurance, my Social Security paperwork. Then the mortgage documents with signatures that looked similar but weren't quite right. "Mr. Watson, do you have handwriting analysis on these signatures?" "Yes, Your Honor." Marcus produced a report from a certified forensic document examiner. The analysis shows conclusively that these signatures were not written by Robert Mitchell. "Your Honor," Emma's lawyer interjected, "even if there were irregularities with the paperwork, my clients acted in good faith. They believed they had Mr. Mitchell's permission to handle the co-signing process." Judge Davidson looked skeptical. "Handle the co-signing process by forging his signature. By managing the administrative details of an arrangement he'd already agreed to." Marcus pulled out another folder. "Your Honor, let's examine what Mr. Mitchell actually agreed to versus what the defendants claim he agreed to." He spread out bank statements showing 3 years of mortgage payments. "Mr. Mitchell has paid $102,492 in mortgage payments over 3 years. But that's not all. More documents. Car payments, insurance, credit cards, emergency loans. The total financial support is $189,000 over 3 years." The number hung in the air like an accusation. Even I was shocked to see it written out so starkly. "Your Honor, Mr. Mitchell is 67 years old and living on Social Security. He has been paying nearly $5,300 per month to support the defendants while living in a 1-bedroom apartment and delaying his own medical care due to financial constraints. Emma shifted in her seat, tears starting to form. But the defendants have not been financially struggling, Your Honor. Marcus produced screenshots from social media. These are posts from Emma Richardson's Facebook account, showing expensive vacations, luxury purchases, and home renovations, all dated during the period when she was receiving Mr. Mitchell's financial support. Your Honor, Emma's lawyer said desperately, social media posts can be misleading. My clients work hard to maintain their lifestyle. Maintain their lifestyle with whose money? Judge Davidson asked sharply. Marcus pulled out his phone. Your Honor, I'd like to play a recording that demonstrates the defendant's attitude toward this financial arrangement. Objection, Your Honor. We weren't notified about any recordings. Your Honor, this recording was made by Mr. Mitchell in his own apartment when the defendants came to threaten him. It's admissible as evidence of extortion and intimidation. Judge Davidson nodded. I'll allow it. The courtroom fell silent as Derek's voice filled the room through Marcus's phone speaker. You're going to sign this agreement today, old man. You're going to continue the payments like you promised. Because if you don't, Emma and I will make sure everyone knows what kind of grandfather chooses money over his own family. Then my voice, calm and steady. Let me understand this correctly. You're saying that if I don't continue paying your mortgage, you'll prevent me from seeing my grandson? Derek's response was brutal. I'm saying that family members who abandon their responsibilities don't get to enjoy family privileges. The recording continued with Linda's voice discussing restraining orders, Emma's tears about Tyler suffering, and Derek's final threat. You're going to pay either way, old man. We can do this easy or hard. The silence in the courtroom when the recording ended was deafening. Judge Davidson's expression had hardened into something dangerous. Mr. Richardson, did I just hear you threaten an elderly man with loss of access to his grandson unless he continued to pay your bills? Derek's lawyer grabbed his arm before he could answer. Your Honor, emotions were running high during that conversation. My clients were under significant stress. Stress that apparently included threatening extortion. Judge Davidson turned to Emma. Miss Richardson, you've been sitting there crying throughout this proceeding. Do you have something you'd like to say? Emma stood up, ignoring her lawyer's attempts to keep her seated. Your Honor, my father is making this sound much worse than it is. He offered to help us, and we accepted gratefully. We never forced him to do anything. You never forced him. The judge looked at the evidence spread across Marcus's table. You forged his signature on legal documents, used his identity for tax benefits, and when he tried to stop the payments, your husband threatened him. How exactly is that not forcing him? We were trying to protect our family. Tyler needs stability, and my father was being selfish and vindictive over a birthday party. The gallery murmured at Emma's outburst. She was making it worse with every word. Your Honor, I raised my daughter alone for 16 years after my wife died. I worked double shifts, gave up my retirement savings, sold my house to help her, and now she claims I owe her money for the privilege of being excluded from my grandson's life. Judge Davidson turned her attention to me. Mr. Mitchell, stand up. I rose slowly, feeling every eye in the courtroom on me. Mr. Mitchell, how much of your monthly income was going to support your daughter's household? Nearly all of it, Your Honor. I was living on about $400 a month after all the transfers and payments. And during this time, were you invited to family events, holidays, birthday parties? Rarely, Your Honor. And when I was, it was usually because they needed me to contribute money for the event. Emma couldn't stay quiet. That's not true. We included him whenever we could. Miss Richardson, sit down and let your lawyer speak for you. No, he's lying. He's making us sound like monsters when we were just trying to survive. Judge Davidson's gavel came down hard. Miss Richardson, you will sit down and control yourself, or I will hold you in contempt. Emma's lawyer finally managed to pull her back to her seat, but the damage was done. Her emotional outburst had confirmed everything Marcus had argued about their sense of entitlement. Miss Richardson, you just said you were trying to survive, while the evidence shows you've been living a luxury lifestyle funded by your father's Social Security checks. Can you explain that contradiction? Emma's voice was shaking. We weren't living in luxury. We were just trying to give Tyler a good life. A good life that included Hawaiian vacations and expensive renovations while your father delayed medical care because he couldn't afford it. He offered to help. We didn't force him. Judge Davidson looked at me. Mr. Mitchell, did you offer to pay for vacations to Hawaii? No, Your Honor. I offered to help with mortgage payments, so my grandson would have stable housing. I had no idea they were using the money I saved them to fund luxury purchases. And did you offer to co-sign their mortgage refinancing agreements? No, Your Honor. I learned about those when I saw the forged signature documents. Emma stood up again, tears streaming down her face. He owes me that money. I lost my mother when I was 8 years old. He owes me for raising me alone. The courtroom went completely silent. Judge Davidson stared at Emma for a long moment, then looked at me. Mr. Mitchell, would you like to respond to that? I stood up slowly, feeling the weight of 16 years of sacrifice and 3 years of exploitation. Your Honor, I gave Emma everything for 16 years after her mother died. I worked double shifts, I gave up dating, I gave up my social life, I gave up my retirement savings. I made sure she never wanted for anything. My voice was steady, calm, but carrying years of hurt. I gave her everything I had to give, and she gave me nothing but bills. Emma's sob echoed through the courtroom. Judge Davidson had heard enough. I've presided over thousands of cases in 20 years on this bench, but I have never seen such a clear case of financial elder abuse by family members. Her voice carried the authority of someone who'd made difficult decisions countless times before. The defendants have systematically defrauded Mr. Mitchell through identity theft, forged documents, and emotional manipulation. They have stolen his financial security, threatened him with loss of family contact, and shown no remorse for their actions. She looked directly at Emma and Derek. Miss Richardson, Mr. Richardson, you will immediately cease all unauthorized use of Mr. Mitchell's identity, credit, or financial accounts. You will remove his name from all mortgage documents and assume full responsibility for your debts. You will make no further contact with Mr. Mitchell except through attorneys, and you will face criminal prosecution for the federal crimes you have committed. Derek tried to stand up. Your Honor, we have a child to consider. You should have considered your child before you decided to commit fraud against his grandfather. Perhaps facing the consequences of your actions will teach you something about responsibility. Judge Davidson turned back to me. Mr. Mitchell, I'm granting a restraining order against both defendants. They are prohibited from contacting you, threatening you, or interfering with your relationship with your grandson. The court recognizes that you are the victim here, not the perpetrator. The gavel came down with finality. As the courtroom emptied, Emma approached me in the hallway outside, tears streaming down her face. Her makeup was ruined, black streaks running down her cheeks like paint in the rain. Derek stood 20 feet away, his face red with anger and humiliation, talking urgently on his phone. Linda had disappeared entirely, probably to avoid being associated with the public disgrace. Dad, please! Emma's voice was broken, desperate. We need to talk. Marcus stepped between us. Emma, there's a restraining order in place. You're not supposed to approach your father. I'm not threatening him. I just need him to understand. I looked at my daughter. This woman who'd spent 3 years systematically stealing from me while cutting me out of her life. The tears looked real. The desperation certainly was. But underneath it all, I could see the same entitlement that had driven her to forge my signature and claim my identity. Understand what, Emma? Dad, Derek's business is failing. We're going to lose the house. Tyler is going to lose his home because of what happened today. Even now, even after the judge's ruling, she was trying to make me responsible for the consequences of her crimes. Emma, you lost your house the day you decided to commit fraud. I didn't do this to you. Your choices did this to you. But Tyler doesn't deserve to suffer for our mistakes. The manipulation was textbook perfect. When legal arguments failed, when tears failed, when threats failed, they always went back to Tyler. You're right. Tyler doesn't deserve to suffer. That's why I've been trying to protect him from parents who commit federal crimes to maintain a lifestyle they can't afford. Derek finished his phone call and stalked over, his lawyer trailing behind, trying to stop him. This isn't over, Robert. You think you've won something here, but all you've done is destroy your own grandson's life. Derek, you're violating the restraining order, Marcus warned. I don't care about the restraining order. This man just made his grandson homeless. I looked at Derek. This man who'd threatened me, forged my signature, stolen my identity, and used my grandson as a weapon against me. Derek, I never made Tyler homeless. You made Tyler homeless when you chose to commit fraud instead of getting a real job. A real job? Derek's voice was rising, attracting attention from people leaving other courtrooms. I've been building a business while you've been living off government handouts. You've been building a fraud while I've been paying your bills with my government handouts. Derek took a step forward, his fists clenched, but his lawyer grabbed his arm. Derek, stop, you're making this worse. But Derek was past caring about making things worse. You want to know the truth, Robert? The truth is we've been carrying you for years, letting you feel important, letting you feel needed. We could have made it without your money, but we felt sorry for you. The lie was so transparent, it was almost funny. Derek, if you could have made it without my money, why did you forge my signature on mortgage documents? Because banks are prejudiced against young entrepreneurs. We needed an older cosigner to get fair rates. So you committed identity theft to get fair rates. We committed paperwork shortcuts to build our family's future. A small crowd was gathering to watch the meltdown. Court clerks, other lawyers, people waiting for their own hearings. Derek's voice was carrying through the marble hallways of the courthouse. Derek, his lawyer pleaded, please stop talking. But Derek was on a roll, 3 years of arrogance and entitlement pouring out in a public tantrum. You know what, Robert? You're pathetic. A 67-year-old man living alone in a 1-bedroom apartment, clinging to your daughter's family because you have nothing else in your life. We were doing you a favor by letting you be part of Tyler's world. Emma tried to grab Derek's arm. Derek, stop, you're making it worse. Worse? How can it be worse? He just destroyed our lives in court. Our business accounts are frozen, our credit is ruined, and we're facing criminal charges because this selfish old man couldn't handle being excluded from one birthday party. The courthouse security guard started walking over, recognizing a situation that was about to require intervention. Derek, I said calmly, you destroyed your own lives when you decided to commit fraud. I just stopped enabling it. Enabling it? You were part of it. You knew what we were doing. I knew I was helping my daughter keep her house. I didn't know you were forging my signature, stealing my identity, and using my money to fund a luxury lifestyle while claiming poverty. Derek's face was purple now, veins standing out on his forehead. Luxury lifestyle? We were barely getting by. Derek, you refinanced the house twice and pulled out $80,000 in cash. Where did that money go? Business investments, equipment, Marketing. Things you wouldn't understand because you never built anything in your life. I built my daughter's entire childhood after her mother died. I built her education, her wedding, her down payment, and 3 years of mortgage payments. What did you build besides debt and lies? That's when Derek completely lost control. I built a family that didn't need you. We included you out of pity, not necessity. Tyler barely knows you exist because you're not important to his life. The words hung in the courthouse hallway like a physical slap. Emma gasped. Derek, don't. But the damage was done. Derek had just admitted in front of a crowd of witnesses that they'd been using Tyler as emotional manipulation while claiming I was unimportant to his life. The courthouse security guard reached us. Folks, I need you to move this conversation outside or end it entirely. Marcus collected his papers. We're done here. The restraining order is in effect immediately. As we walked toward the exit, I could hear Derek still ranting behind us, his voice echoing off the marble walls. This isn't over. We'll appeal. We'll fight this. His lawyer's voice was tired, defeated. Derek, there's nothing to appeal. You admitted to forging signatures in court. The next few days revealed the full scope of their collapse. Marcus called me Friday morning with updates. Robert, Derek's business accounts have been frozen by the IRS. They found evidence of tax evasion going back 4 years. The shell company scheme was larger than we thought. What does that mean for them? It means they're facing federal charges for tax fraud in addition to the identity theft charges. And without Derek's fake business income, they can't qualify for any mortgage payments. The local newspaper ran a story Saturday morning. Local couple charged with elder fraud. The article detailed the court case, the forged signatures, and the systematic financial abuse of a 67-year-old father. Emma's Facebook page, which had been public during her sympathy-seeking campaign, became a target for community anger. Now we know why your father stopped paying your bills. Fraud is not family financial planning. That poor man. How could you steal from your own father? Emma made the page private, but screenshots were already circulating. Sunday morning brought news that Derek had been arrested for violating the restraining order. Apparently, he'd shown up at Mrs. Patterson's apartment, demanding she tell him where I was because that old man ruined our lives. Mrs. Patterson had called the police. Marcus called with more updates. Monday. Robert, their house is going into foreclosure. Without your payments and with Derek's accounts frozen, they missed their first payment. The bank started proceedings immediately. What about Tyler? Emma's moved back in with her mother temporarily. Derek's in jail pending bail on the restraining order violation. By Wednesday, the story had spread beyond our local community. Someone had posted the courthouse video to social media, and Derek's public meltdown was going viral. The comments were brutal. Imagine stealing from your elderly father-in-law and then calling him pathetic. This man paid their bills for 3 years, and they excluded him from birthday parties. The audacity to claim they were doing him a favor by taking his money. Emma called me Thursday, ignoring the restraining order. Dad, please. Derek's in jail. We lost the house, and Tyler is asking why everyone is saying mean things about his parents online. I almost hung up, but something in her voice stopped me. Emma, you're violating the restraining order by calling me. I know. I'm sorry. Dad, I don't know what to do. Everything is falling apart. The desperation was real now. Not the manipulative tears she'd used for years, but genuine fear. Emma, what did you expect would happen when you committed federal crimes? I expected you to love me enough to forgive us. The answer was so honest, it took my breath away. Emma, I do love you. That's why I paid your bills for 3 years, even when you treated me like an ATM. But love doesn't mean enabling criminal behavior. So you're just going to let us lose everything? I didn't take everything from you. You threw everything away when you chose fraud over honesty. Dad, Tyler doesn't understand why his world is collapsing. All he knows is that Daddy is in jail, and we had to move out of our house, and everyone at school is talking about the videos online. For the first time in this entire nightmare, I felt genuine pain for someone other than myself. Where is Tyler now? He's with my mom during the day while I look for work. Dad, I can't even get hired anywhere because everyone in town knows about the court case. The community that had rallied to support me had turned completely against Emma and Derek. Their social media campaign had backfired spectacularly. Emma, what do you want from me? I want my father back. The simplicity of it was heartbreaking. Emma, I never left. You pushed me away. You turned me into nothing more than a funding source while cutting me out of the life I was funding. I know we were wrong. Derek convinced me that you were trying to control us with money, and I was so afraid of being controlled that I didn't realize we were controlling you. It was the closest thing to genuine remorse I'd heard from her in 3 years. Emma, it's too late for apologies to fix this. You committed crimes. Derek committed crimes. There are consequences that I can't undo even if I wanted to. I know, but Dad, Tyler still needs his grandfather. He's 8 years old and his world has been destroyed. Could you maybe just see him sometimes? Not to help us, just to help him? I looked around my small apartment, quiet and peaceful for the first time in months. No automatic transfers draining my account, no threatening phone calls, no manipulation disguised as family obligation, but also no grandson's laughter, no photos from school events, no bedtime stories or baseball games or birthday parties. Emma, Tyler was never the problem. Tyler was the victim. You and Derek used him as a weapon against me. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Dad. She hung up before I could respond. I sat in the silence, wondering if this was what victory was supposed to feel like. 6 months later, my apartment looked different. Not bigger, not fancier, but different. The photos of Tyler were still on every wall, but now they were joined by other pictures. Mrs. Patterson and me at the community center's senior lunch. Marcus and his wife at their anniversary dinner, which I'd been able to attend because I could finally afford to buy a gift and dress appropriately. My bank account showed a balance I hadn't seen in years, $3,247. Not rich by any standard, but mine. Earned by my work, saved by my choices, spent on my priorities. The automatic transfers were gone. The emergency fund demands were gone. The guilt-driven financial bleeding had stopped entirely. Marcus called on a Tuesday morning with news. Robert, Derek pled guilty to identity theft and tax fraud. He's getting 18 months in federal prison and 5 years probation. And Emma? She pled guilty to conspiracy charges. She's getting probation and community service, but no jail time because she's Tyler's primary caregiver. That's probably for the best. There's something else, Robert. Emma's lawyer asked if you'd be open to supervised visitation with Tyler. She's required to attend parenting classes as part of her probation, and the counselor thinks Tyler would benefit from contact with extended family. I looked at Tyler's photos on my wall. 8 years old now, probably taller, definitely dealing with trauma that his parents had created. What kind of supervised visitation? Neutral location, social worker present initially, focused on Tyler's well-being, rather than family reconciliation. For 6 months, I'd wondered if I'd lost my grandson forever in the process of saving myself. The possibility of seeing him again made my chest tight with hope and fear. I'll think about it. That afternoon, Mrs. Patterson knocked with tea and cookies, a ritual we'd developed over the months. Robert, you look troubled. Good news or bad news? I'm not sure. They want to arrange visits with Tyler. Supervised? Very supervised. She sipped her tea thoughtfully. What does your heart tell you? My heart says I miss my grandson. My head says I need to protect myself from more manipulation. And what does your experience tell you? I thought about the past 6 months. Learning to live within my means. Rediscovering friendships I'd abandoned while chasing Emma's approval. Finding peace in my small apartment instead of resentment about what I couldn't afford. My experience tells me that healthy relationships require boundaries.